for other things as
All
well.
right. Okay, Ernie.
Is
So
that-
Ernie and Vince, can I ask the two of you to work together to make it substantially more likely that we can consistently have this working? It's
Yes,
probably
'cause we
good
need to
to
check
have
with-
two people anyway, in case one of you's not around.
That's a good
All
idea.
right.
And yeah,
Let us begin, and we'll try and make up for lost time with just sheer efficiency of meeting process. This is a regular meeting of the Planning Commission. And so, as you saw on the meeting, the proposed meeting dates overall are we're going to have regular meetings. And so this one was 3 weeks since the last one, and the next regular meeting is October 10th. So we're on the second Tuesday of the month, regular meetings, with the assumption that subcommittees are doing work in between. So this is a regular meeting, and we have an agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda, and then we can discuss?
so move.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any comments and questions or suggestions on the agenda? All right, call the question. All those in favor of the agenda as written?
Aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Good. Thank you. Public comment. I do not see any member of the public other than Amy, and I'm pretty sure she would have told me what she wanted to say before the meeting started. So I don't think we have
So
that
Lisa
gap
Coates is here.
unless members of the commission have comments for something not on the agenda. Is that Jeff?
John, Lisa is here too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see. Does she want to speak?
Here I am.
Okay. Hello. Would you like to make a comment?
Yes, just a brief one, sort of an opinion, or maybe to, so I live in Partridge Hill in Norwich. And I just wanted to say, this regards housing, but it's sort of more broad and in general reflects my views on development that I think needs to focus as much on that which is not human, like nature and so forth, as it does on what's human. And so, not knowing quite where you guys are headed, I just thought I would say that I'm interested in establishing regulations that increase quality of life for both nature and us, less noise, less light, preservation of nature, and also, to the extent possible, I would commit to nature before I would commit to further housing development. Like when I hear people talking about building more housing, as a general principle, I say, well, we've taken a lot of housing away from creatures, and we should think hard about preserving what we have. I don't know if that's clear, but that's just an opinion that I wanted to state.
Okay.
And maybe there will be an option to give you input some other time. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. If that's what we have for public comment, let's move to correspondence. The one thing that I know we have in correspondence, which came out yesterday, and you all would have gotten that from Pam, and it came right, an hour before she sent it out. So yesterday, which is why it's in correspondence, and there's a limit to what we can do about it. So that is the net metering application for the Hennessy Solar project up on Bragg Hill. And it matches the earlier application, 50 kilowatts. And the important thing that I would point out to people, if you didn't see it on the application, is the deadline for what's called intervention. So that if you remember what the select board did about a month ago in discussing this, they passed a motion to direct the town manager, whenever such a project came across their desk, to file what's an intervention and ask for a hearing, which is the legal way of gaining party status. So the select board, I assume, which will have gotten the same notice that we just did, if they follow that motion, will do that, and they will file for party status on this. The deadline to do that is October 5th, which is before our next regular meeting. We can't take any official motion on this tonight, which means if we want to take any motion on this issue, we would need to have a special meeting. Well, if we wanted to take any action that related to that deadline of October 5th, we would need a special meeting. So that's about as much as we can talk about it. The only other thing I would point out is this application, as I read it, did not ask for a preferred siting letter and does not need one, I believe, because it's not on the ridge line, which means it is, and it's not visible from any other property or any other structure or any other road. And so I think it's in the default preferred category, because I did not see anything explicit in the application asking for a preferred siting letter. Any thoughts or comments on this correspondence? Chris?
So why the October 5th deadline for being a participant in the hearing?
I think it's a 21 days after the notice of application. What I didn't see the exact deadline dates, but that's what the official add the right number of days after you apply and then close the intervention period gives you.
And so if the select board acting as the legislative body for the town, does that not automatically say, does it only apply to the select board members, or is it saying the town of Norwich officials, which would include us? So I'm wondering if it's necessary that both bodies have to apply for that.
I don't know. First of all, we don't know what the select board's going to do. My interpretation of their motion from a month ago is not good enough to predict what they're going to do. Second of all, I think if you're talking specifically about party status, I think the planning commission is different than the select board.
Okay.
And if this was a bigger, more contentious, we definitely want party status kind of project, then I would definitely advocate for the planning commission getting it individually, separately, and in addition to the select board.
Right. I also want to point out that since the solar siting committee has been looking at the energy part, on page, I wrote it down because I'm pretty sure this was all going to come up. I didn't write what page number it was. I think it's page 19 or 20 in the town plan under actions 3-3E. And it says actions, and which again, the town plan is supposed to direct officials, and it says to participate in the section 248 process before the PUC. So it wasn't something that, I know that you had mentioned that there were concerns that the town was suddenly showing interest in participating when in fact it is embodied in the town plan for the town to do it. So it seems that, whoever wrote the actions, that they anticipated officials to be involved. So I don't think this is out of our realm, quite frankly. So short of having a special meeting, is there no way that is it? We can't introduce the idea of, even though it's in the town plan, we can't introduce the idea of us being a part of this because of the Hennessy came in as correspondence, so we can't discuss it now, or?
I don't, my understanding, and anybody please chime in, but my understanding is we cannot take a motion to, we can't make a decision to have action relating to this topic because it's not on the agenda.
Well, no, so my question is, not specifically the Hennessy, but can we make a motion, since it's in the town plan, under actions, which again means whatever, that the town should be involved in this. So is there any reason we couldn't make a motion that the planning commission should be involved in the 248 reviews in general?
So I don't, that may be feasible. I guess the way I would roll that in would be to do it as part of the solar siting subcommittee report, which is on the agenda, and talk about it at that time. And if, as part of that report, we can somehow craft direct the chair to do thus and such in a general way, then maybe. What do other people think about that? Jeff?
Yeah, Jan, I don't think that's appropriate. I mean, I think it has to be on the agenda as an item for us to address.
Okay.
That was my first
Yeah.
take when I saw it yesterday. So if we can work through some of the solar siting subcommittee discussions just to give ourselves a little background here, but I think the short answer is, if we want to address this project in any, make anything concrete decision about it, we need a special meeting. It can be a half an hour long Zoom only special meeting that we have, at some convenient time, but it would have to be warned and so forth. Any feelings? What are people's feelings just about this particular project? Ernie?
I'm just thinking, about, compliance with the open meeting law and so on. I think you're correct. And I think we should just have a special meeting online, try and keep it just for that, so that, we're not being inundated with too many meetings. But beyond that, we could have it next week, sometime.
If we want to sort of pool our related topics, we could do something on either side of the solar siting. Solar siting subcommittee is meeting on Tuesday, the 19th at 6:30. We could slide this in at 7:30 or something and take a break from the solar site, or do it at 6 and do it before. And other members of the planning commission would jump on board, talk about this particular topic, and then roll back into the subcommittee meeting. So that would be a proposal to maybe simplify a special meeting. Any thoughts on that?
I think my only thing would be logistically or administratively is that you have to warn a meeting, and Pam usually gives the link. So she'll be giving a link for the special meeting. So if she does the same thing, would you be on two Zoom links? So it'd be kind of I'm not quite sure.
I think you're right. Because we would do the special as Zoom only, so that would make it simpler to do it before. Open one Zoom, have a special meeting about the Hennessy project of the full planning commission, warned at 6 o'clock on Tuesday the 19th or whatever, and then close that meeting and open the subcommittee meeting separately, because it'll have a different Zoom number. If people want to try and cram things together, or we just find another time for the Hennessy thing.
I'm good with that.
Do we have, can we get a quorum for 6 o'clock on the 19th? Anybody that absolutely can't do that, it's gonna, for people who are not in the subcommittee, it should be no more than half an hour. I would expect we can do it in 15 minutes.
I'm okay.
I could say if it was a short Zoom, I think I could do that, yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question about it? Is it just that we want to have a seat at the table to be party to the conversation? Or is there something that we're contesting?
I personally could go either way, and anybody can, you know, and that's what we'll talk about. I personally think that this getting party status isn't going to do you much in this instance because you got no levers to tweak on. This is you know, we're not going to be able to have much input into this project because it is hidden from view and not on a ridge line and a default site. So we'll talk about it, but I don't think there's anything, you know, to contest really. But if we want to talk about it, I think it's worth warning it because people may chime in. Some, you know, the public will show up to a warned meeting and they may say, hey, wait a minute, this is dreadful and terrible, and here's why, and we'll decide to get party status. Stuart?
So if my understanding is correct, and I'm certainly happy to be corrected, this appears to be a not so contentious issue as the one that we reviewed before. And I'm very thankful that it does not appear to be contentious, because I think we really need to deal with this issue, and we are trying our best to do that as quickly as we can. But I just want to express my thanks, if that's what it is, for the fact that this is not going to be a hot button issue. So,
Yeah.
just one man's opinion.
Yeah, and as I said, I would agree, Stuart, but I do think, having just thought through this, that there is value in having a warned meeting so that if we think it's not contentious, then I think it's still worth warning it and letting somebody come out from the public and say why they think it's, you know, think differently. Give people the opportunity to speak in a warned meeting is valuable in and of itself.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, John. In fact, I think what you're doing is the right thing to do. So look forward to the meeting and
Okay.
see what happens.
So if I can take that as a sense of the group, we will have a Zoom only warned 6 o'clock Tuesday the 19th meeting on a single topic, the Hennessy application. All right. Any other discussion, Chris?
So while we're doing that, can we just address it and just say, again, it's not just the Hennessy project, so that we're not making it look like this is contentious, and just say that we're talking about the planning commission as a general rule is going to request, party status for all solar projects, so that it doesn't look like we're, this isn't like another specific. That's what I was trying to get at. Is the town plan says the town should be involved. So rather than having a special meeting and having the town get upset thinking that, this is contentious, we could just say, we're doing this because we think the town should be involved in all projects.
So we can make the agenda item broad enough to include that topic. I mean, the general topic, party status, PC status or relationship to solar siting project. My only concern is we're gonna have a half-hour hard stop to start another warned meeting. And so if we do it that way, we're gonna have to clip it. If it starts to get into general, and we get public coming to talk about party status issues, we just have to be aware that we're going to have to stop it at 6:30 because we'll have another warned meeting. Jeff, and then Stuart, I'm not sure if your hand is still up or newly up. Jeff?
Yeah, and I think we put the Hennessy correspondence on as the agenda item. And the broader topic that Chris brought up could be addressed with the subcommittee.
It certainly will be. I mean, I think that will definitely be on our list. And it's really, right now it's ad hoc. It's like as each of these applications comes up, we have to address it and say, do we want party status or not? If we made a policy statement as part of a recommendation out of the subcommittee, then we wouldn't have to revisit it each time. We would know what to do. But they don't come fast and furious. So for the next, the time it takes the subcommittee to get engaged, we can take them one at a time. Stuart, are you up?
No, Jan, I was just trying to make sure that my hand was lowered.
All right. Okay, I see it's still up, but I can
It's not lowered?
let me see. Now it's not lowered. I don't know. I can probably ask you to lower it. Oh, I can physically lower your hand for you.
Sounds like I can use all the help I can get.
Okay. So that is all set for correspondence. I did not see any other correspondence if nobody else did. All right. Just chair notes quickly. I don't want to spend time on this, but I do want to reiterate a statement that I made previously around the planning commission staying focused on planning commission work. We want to be an effective group, and I think to do that, we need to focus on our charter, our agenda, the places where within our sphere of influence we can make a difference. So there are certain things that we have to take as givens, whether it's national policy, state laws and regulations, regional things that we're embedded in, and rather than debate those in this precious time that is our warned meetings, I would ask us to, if you want to argue about a state law, go talk to your representative offline. If you want to talk about anything from climate change to the town manager form of government, that is not our task for these precious 2 hours every month we're going to have. So that is really all I wanted to point out under chair notes. So, and I will, and anybody else can chime in with points of order to try and keep us to be as effective as possible. And with that, I would open it up for subcommittee updates, and the way it's listed, solar siting is first. So Chris, what do you have to tell us about? And as I said, I think the expectation is that everybody reads the minutes when they're sent out. So we can assume the minutes have been read, but any highlights you want to give, feel free.
No, because you wrote some great minutes. So if somebody, Jeff or Vince or Bob, if you're Stuart, anybody has any questions, we certainly will field them. But I think Jan, you said it all pretty well. There was, I think the only thing that maybe should be highlighted is why we end up deciding on just the three of us. The meeting was a little, it was a little, seemed a little controversial for a minute there. And while we were clearly open to wanting to invite members of the public, it seemed that we were going to, open up a bee's nest. So that's why we decided to just keep it to just the three of us, and then, have the public just be involved. So as much as we wanted to enlarge our subcommittee, it was going to be probably more of a problem than otherwise. And again, I think we did really well. We have to, we discussed having to come up with the charge or the charter. You refer to it as a charter. And I think the only other thing that was, I think we discussed was how, I think the one thing that I, really think was important is that the town plan is a living document and it needs to be updated. It's not a static document. It wasn't just produced and then 9 years later, it just gets redone. It needs constant updates. And so, the solar siting committee is going to try and keep up with all the evolving legislation or regulations they put out there. So that's what we're doing. So I think it would be just is important for us right now to find out if any of the other planning commission members have questions for us or input of any kind.
Mm-hmm. Jeff?
Yeah, the Affordable Housing Subcommittee has existed since early 2000s, and it's varied in membership from 5 to 7, with a couple members of the Planning Commission. I think we got up to 3 at one point. So I was just wondering why we couldn't say to the public, it could be 5, it could be 7, it could be 9, as long as it's an odd number. To the extent there are folks in the community that want to participate, throw us your names and let's evaluate or think about adding you to this subcommittee. So since I wasn't involved, I'm just reading sort of after the fact, why not open it up?
Chris?
Don, you want to field that?
Well, and Ernie or Chris, jump in. I mean, we talked about, and that was the conversation, and that was the assumption going in. My assumption going in was that we were gonna have, pick a number, whether it was 5, 7, or 9, whatever, and then we'd have a member from the energy committee and a member from the neighbors, or and try and put together a group. But as we were talking about it, and it did get pretty contentious in the sense that people didn't want certain parties on the committee. It really it needed it. We're not going to vote on things. That I think that was the point when people were like, well, it's going to go to the planning commission. We're going to make recommendations. It's going to go to the planning commission, and then it's going to go to the select board. And so if this is an advisory committee, can the 3 members act as facilitators to collect information and craft recommendations and then feed them to the planning commission? And if it's that rather than a voting body that needs an odd number, then have it be a little less formal. I don't know, Chris, Ernie, does that match what you were heard?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the emphasis was that since we weren't going to be voting on anything, that it would. The concern was, Jeff, that we were going to be voting on things, and they felt that there were people who were concerned that their influence was going to be undue. But so this is. Again, I don't.
Jeff?
Yeah, so the Affordable Housing Subcommittee today only has 1 planning commission member on it. And it's functioning quite well, looking at things that the planning commission is not looking at and informing the planning commission accordingly. So my reaction would be to say, invite folks to join, and regardless, I'm not going to comment on what I've heard as far as who might not. Just open it up. That would be my advice. Let the public be involved And whoever's involved up to whatever number we decide, fine. I don't care what their thoughts are, but let's evaluate it, bring them on.
Ernie?
Yeah, I mean, my take on the subcommittee was that our job is more or less to collect ideas and bring them to the planning commission. We're not really supposed to work them out ourselves, because of course that takes voting and so on and so forth. And I think we pretty clearly issued voting. Really, I mean, we just sort of, the three of us work collectively to get ideas. And if we involve the public, if we invite the public to come, we don't have to have it at every single meeting. If that let's see, there's the part of there's the meetings where we might want to winnow out the ideas, and there's the meetings where we're going to collect the ideas. The collecting of the ideas, we certainly want, as many ideas as we can grab. And the winnowing out is really sort of seeing, what's in common between the ideas, and then, sort of consolidating or bringing the ideas in such a way that the planning commission has a relatively, it's a way of just making it more efficient for the planning commission to deal with all those ideas. It's we in the prior set of subcommittees that the planning commission had used when it was for writing the town plan. They sort of didn't do that. They sort of took it on themselves to actually present pieces, and sort of get the planning commission, the rest of the planning commission members who were not on the subcommittees, to rubber stamp what the subcommittees each sort of were allotted and dealt with. And I don't think that's where we want to go with this at all, because I think that led way too much to, well, first of all, there was a lot of rubber stamping going on. It was a bad habit with the prior ways this commission was formulated.
Mm-hmm. So
I think-
and Jeff, in a minute, I just wanted to say that I think, we've had one meeting, and it may be worth just letting the subcommittee have another meeting or two with this still open, and then, we don't have to shut down the conversation about how membership works after one meeting. But Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I might agree with Ernie with what happened with Rod Francis and Jackie Allen and Melissa Horowitz. I'm not trying to say anything negative, rather, having been involved in the planning commission since 1991 or 2 or so, and in this business for 40 years, there's a five-year window here in town where we had a planner who became a town manager, who basically told us what we're going to do. It was an up or down thing that Ernie said. And to his point, which I agree with, it's a horrible paradigm. What we've done in the last 5 years with select board, planning commission, and I'll leave it at that, is a horrible paradigm. So sitting here, since Ernie made the point, I don't want a committee populated by planning commission members to offer ideas. My personal sense is the more public input we have, the better. I mean, I don't mean this to be flip, but I don't care what the ideas are. Let folks proffer, like the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. We had a trails committee, we had a transportation committee, we had other things, yada, yada. The corridor committee, where the balls on the bridge got created, the bandstand committee, let's involve the public. And
So Jeff, and just let me clarify, because I don't think the minutes didn't say it enough. And by the end of the meeting, we had probably the most positive sense at the end of a meeting I've seen in quite a while. And that was because it was clear to everybody that we wanted to maximize public participation, and the goal was to have the 3 planning commission members. That's our purpose, is to maximize public participation. And so that's the point, and that's really what we were trying to do with that. Ernie?
Yeah, if I can respond, having been given the opportunity for 3 minutes to talk about Hemlock Road and spending $1.2 million for something that I can't make sense of, and I do this for a living. I think it's important that the select board not drive the train. I think it's important that the planning commission not drive the train. I think it's important that we open it up to engage folks in the public who may have the skills and knowledge that we don't have, that our select board doesn't have. And I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, that our staff does not have.
Chris? And then Ernie.
So,
Ernie was first, Chris, but then.
That's all right. Go ahead, Ernie.
Ernie?
Oh, okay. All I just wanted to say is, I mean, I sort of informally, I mean, we're always, because of all of us are, kind of involved in the town already. Wednesday, I was at a meeting for that, I attended over Hemlock Road. But after the meeting, I was talking to Craig Lane and a few other people, and we started talking about the planning commission and where so far we've discussed going with it and so on and so forth. And, Craig Lane, for instance, is somebody who I've had a lot of respect for a lot of time. And I'm glad that, he's still in the Conservation Commission, and I wanted him to get involved with us anyways. And of course, you sent out the invitation, which what we were talking about. And I thought I was so happy that when I saw you had done that to start with, because I had mentioned this in the prior formulation of the Planning Commission and got shot down to have the Conservation Commission, sort of working with us and a couple other commissions too. So and Craig's all thrilled and I'm all thrilled. And there's a couple other people that were all thrilled that we're all talking about this stuff now. And so I think that we're going to find that there's going to be this really fertile, we might have an overabundance of ideas, but I never, working as in tech when I did, an overabundance of ideas has never been a bad thing. It might take a little bit of time, and there might be a little bit of ego massaging that has to occur and stuff like that. But that's all just part of the fun of the whole process for me.
Yeah. So, Chris, if you want to wrap up, and then we'll move on to committee.
So I think, like you said, Jan, I'm just sort of going to repeat and reiterate what you were saying. I get what Jeff is saying and wanting to incorporate and bring everybody in. But I think what we were ultimately realizing is that we haven't really quite envisioned what the subcommittee really, we haven't created the charter yet. And we didn't know if this is going to be, unlike the Affordable Housing Committee, this could last for 2 months. It could last for 3 months. There wasn't really anything that said this is going to be a permanent committee, and therefore it really needed, that kind of structure of 5 to 7 members and no voting. So I think that's what, when we were talking, I think about what the Solar Siting Committee is going to do, it ultimately didn't necessitate having to have sort of that official large membership, that we will just be getting information and then ultimately bringing it to the entire planning commission, which is when the public really will have a lot, they'll have input on both sides. But membership, by the time we got finished with the meeting, it seemed that membership was not as important as it would have been in other subcommittees. That was
I
it.
think, and I think the overall message, and the reason it ended on a positive note, was that everybody really got the message that we wanted to maximize public participation. And so I would say we hear that's agreed by, Planning Commission is in agreement with that idea. Let's let the committee meet once or twice more to get specifics, but I think we all agree on that. All right. Stuart, how's land use doing?
We're doing. So before I talk about land use, I'd just like to raise a couple of housekeeping questions and that or issues. Very small. So I'd love to see the minutes signed by whoever takes the minutes. And I'd also like to see at the outset, I'd like to see something that says when the next meeting is going to be in the minutes. So just those two kind of
Yep.
pro forma kind of thing. So the land use committee, which was previously titled or suggested to be titled growth and development. This, as everyone in this room or online knows, this is not an easy topic, nor is it a very speedy kind of topic to resolve or to address. So we started off and we talked about a bunch of different things. And I had hoped, as had been suggested, that there was going to be a Word document of the planning of the town plan. That hasn't happened, and I don't know, and perhaps Bob could suggest why that hasn't happened. But if there's anybody who has the capability to put the town plan into a Word document, that would be much appreciated. Simply because it will allow us to redline and to annotate much more easily than doing it on a PDF or some other form. So with respect to the contents of our meeting, we had two members of the public who were present, and one member of the public was quite forceful in supporting the idea that we are involved in a climate emergency. And the town plan itself, the current town plan, in item number 1.3, the first thing on 1.3 states in the planning process how to respond to the climate crisis. So that appears to be a given on the part of at least one member of the public and in the town plan itself. And I have serious reservations about, just personally, me. So I have serious reservations about whether we're involved in a climate crisis, a climate emergency, whether the sky is falling. And the reason that I had put in the original meeting agenda Al Gore's book was because there were so many claims made in that book that were not fulfilled, that didn't happen. So, and I placed quite a bit of weight on the letter that was authored by 1,600 climate scientists, including 2 Nobel Prize winners, who really do question whether we're involved in a climate crisis or involved in a climate emergency. So I think that the topic is it's not only current, obviously, but it is also important that we spend some time, at least some time, discussing it and trying to understand both sides or many sides of this particular issue. I don't think it's an easy issue to understand, especially if you're not a scientist, and even if you are a scientist. You know, there are a lot of people who have very deep-seated convictions, emotions, and they feel strongly about this whole issue. And the reason that I even talk about this is because it is the number one issue in the planning process. And it's not something that we can simply, I think, overlook or just accept as something without further discussion. I don't think it's something that we can simply ignore or go right by. As to the minutes that were taken, I mean, what we would like to do, or what I would like to see happen, and it hasn't really happened, is we want to be able to offer suggestions on how to improve the town plan and how to address any contradictions, any things that appear to be irregular, any things that appear to be left out. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. So the whole issue is I'm not sure how long it took the prior planning commission, and Jeff might know better than I, how long it took them to rewrite the town plan and what who was involved, how it worked out. All I know is that there was in the last town plan, when you talk about town planning and growth and development, there were, as you would expect, there were serious points of view that were very different from each other. And, I don't know that we can come to consensus. And I don't know that the three of us, as wise or as dumb as we happen to be, I don't know that we can come to consensus. But the comments from each of us, I think, are going to be helpful, valuable, and should receive consideration from the total planning commission, recognizing, of course, that the process goes from this small committee of three to the larger committee of, the recommendations go to the larger committee of 7, and then go to the smaller select board of 5. And then perhaps it goes to the town. I don't know. All I know is that it's not an easy process. It's not a short, simple, slam dunk kind of process. It's a very lengthy process. And the best we can do, I think, is to do it justice, to try and be as thoughtful as we can and consider many points of view in what we're doing. So I'm not sure if there's anything specific in the minutes that should be addressed, but certainly Bob and Ernie are here. They're part of this committee. They certainly can offer any further comment that they would like to make.
Yeah,
And-
it looks like Bob, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'll just say in the meeting, what came up in the meeting was that it would be good to have a Word document so that we could edit as we go through our discussions to come up with a draft. We didn't have one at the last meeting. I think I have one now. I mean, I did a PDF to Word conversion I happen to have old software that wasn't quite doing it right, but I think I've got it now. If not, it should be pretty straightforward. I said I was going to put the edits that we had discussed in the meeting. A lot of Ernie's suggestion that sustainability be part of the plan, the town plan. So as is in the minutes, that wasn't ready for sending out with minutes, but for the packet for our next meeting, we'll have at least the portion of the plan that we have edited with the new, most of what was put in our editing process that we walked through was just in section 1 suggestions for how to incorporate sustainability with the land use. So that's what we'll see. That should be in the packet. then also a Word document will exist out there, and we can share it or figure out how to appropriately edit it, and then and whether we put it in the minutes at the end each time we have changes, or how we go about it. But that was probably what we're going to do going forward, was use the edits done in the meeting, put them into the minutes, and then everyone can see, I'll redline what we redline, make it obvious what has been changed. And so that's what we should be doing going forward, I guess.
Right, so we should definitely be clear on the logistics in terms of where editing happens and how it's recorded and what's in the minutes, but we can take that separately. I see Stuart's hand and then Ernie's. I would, before we go into that, I would like to emphasize that, the land use committee is working on elements of the town plan. Say the solar siting subcommittee will have town plan elements that it's talking about and regulations. So, and and that's clearly not going to be a wholesale rewrite of the town plan out of those two subcommittees. So we have to be clear on what we're working on, what we're not working on at the time, and not try to boil the ocean here by doing the whole damn thing at once. So Stuart.
So a big thank you to Bob for managing to come up with a Word document, and I think that will be very helpful in the work that we're doing. And just to Jan, to your point, I think it's most appropriate that we try and limit ourselves to land use. That's the topic. However, we have members of the public who clearly stated that you cannot view anything with respect to the town plan without considering the climate emergency that we are in, according to this particular member of the public. So, I guess it will be up to the three of us to decide whether and how far we want to think that the so-called climate emergency or climate crisis, however you want to term it, does carry us in considering other things. So I just mentioned that. My own view, I think, is similar to yours, which is that regardless of how urgent the climate issue is, that it doesn't necessarily relate to every single thing in the town plan. So, I mean, we're a land use committee, and I think we should try and limit ourselves to land use. But I don't know whether that view is shared by my other two committee members. And if it is, that's the way we'll go. If it's not, then we may go in a different direction. So.
Okay. Ernie, I think it's a good point. I think we're getting our feet wet here in terms of subcommittees to whole planning commission and how we're going to work. And so it's perfectly fine to have these conversations and to not know yet exactly, but we're trying to help the committees do useful work by having focused tasks and charters. And so, the proposal of saying, no, it really is a land use committee, and this is what that means in terms of bounding the question, I think is useful conversation. Ernie?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things I was going to discuss regarding the land use. The simplest one, which I don't really want to get bogged down, is if for some reason there's a problem with using Bob's conversion in the records, and this is, in the files that you are looking for, which is the next subject we're going to be dealing with, there should be a Word version of the town plan, because that was how we worked with it. And there also even though they were going, what I think, in a bad direction with the regulations, there is also one for the regulations too. So you should, if you haven't found those, they should be made available to us somehow or other. I actually disagree with Stuart vehemently about climate change not having anything to do with land use. I think it's inextricably bound together. And, you know, there's lots of science that discusses that. I've been looking at land use issues and climate change and other aspects of those things, the other facets of those. Since I don't know how long, 30 years or so. In law school, it was part of my a major part of my studies. And you know, going back to our discussion within the solar siting, we had at the first meeting, we had 2 members of the public who were extremely learned and extremely willing to share what they know. And I was, you know, I found that a refreshing change from, you know, what I've seen in various groupings that I've been involved with in this town. And then tonight we're here and we have somebody who explained a really nice idea that I think has to be considered seriously. I think not enough good stuff can be said about having the public coming and bringing ideas to us as the very first thing we do. I mean, I've now been in 3 meetings in a row and met people with really good ideas, bringing stuff that at least I think is worth thinking about. And you know, something I know about when you do collaborative work and when you're putting things together, no one person comes up with the whole thing, you know, but lots of people put pieces together and the pieces often fit. And you can come up with really good legislation or really good regulations or whatever it is you're trying to do. I think that having the public involved is a major function of these subcommittees, because the subcommittees are less formal, and you know, you can in a meeting like a regular commission like we're in now, you know, you have to have a chair and you have to it can be, there's not enough, it's not informal enough for some people to speak. It's not it's not informal enough for people to sort of say, yeah, I like that, but this is different, and so on and so forth. Here, you know, you have to sort of just make big pronouncements. It's not the greatest working environment. These committees are much better for that, and I think we should have more of them for the different facets of what we're trying to accomplish with the town plan. I think we should. Well, that's the bottom line. More of these subcommittees, and we should have more public involvement. The public won't necessarily get to help winnow out, but the thing is, I can even. It just occurred to me a few years ago. I took a course. The Dartmouth Entrepreneurs Club had a get together, which that almost doesn't sound like something that would be related to this, but it did, because it taught people they taught you how to get together, get ideas, you know, take all these ideas and somehow funnel them down so that you get, you know, a smaller number that might cover more, and so on. That was a good paradigm of what we should be doing, is the way that was carried out. And, you know, we had it was basically a one weekend, and we were, you know, struggling with only one issue, but, you know, we could have weekends with the public, and say, you know, come for breakfast, and then let's get down and have, you know, and start spinning ideas. I think we need someone who's kind of knows how to run these meetings a little bit better. Maybe somebody from the Dartmouth Entrepreneurs Club. I don't know. I mean, I'm not real fond of Dartmouth, but for me to give them a credit, that must mean something.
Yeah. So let me, because I do want to, you know, I want to get the subcommittees to do their work and have time to do their work and put it back on them. And like I said, we've met once or twice each. So I would propose that we agree that yes, one of the reasons for having subcommittees is to do the real work and really encourage public participation. And I would push some of these topics back down to the committees for now. Clearly, the full commission is here to make decisions about issues to help the committees do their work. But right now, unless somebody's really got a burning desire, I think we need to move on. Jeff?
Yeah, Jan, I have a lot to say. So I'll try and keep it short, not to 3 minutes as the select board required of me last Wednesday for a really important issue. So I like the notion of people and being involved, like Ernie said, and I infer from the rest of the committee. So as as a member of the Keys to the Valley, there's a critical group that includes RPC members, Regional Planning Commission members, other interested folks in the Upper Valley. They're talking about land use. Unless Norwich wants to remain insular and, as I'm quoting Stuart, a gated community, we might invite those folks to join us. I'm also involved with Vital Communities and its consideration of affordable housing and its affordable housing endeavors. And again, sorry, Stuart, I'm quoting you again about the gated community, but unless we want to actually involve others outside of our insular setting, that ain't going to happen. So I just want to encourage us. So these committees include 12, 15, sometimes 20 plus people in the Zoom session to talk about what the real issues are in this community. This isn't about Norwich. This is about the Upper Valley. This is about our two states. This is about the regulatory paradigm in our two states and much more. So to the extent we can involve others as opposed to 3 people on the Planning Commission, I can say invite Ellen Hender from Vital Communities. I can say invite up, Peter Gregory, et cetera. I want to comment about a couple things. So a comment was made from Stuart about Planning Commission and subcommittees. Previously, we weren't allowed as Planning Commission members to be involved in subcommittees. Basically, we were told you can't be, and here's what you're being told to vote up or down on. We didn't have a choice about language like climate crisis or climate emergency. So to the extent Ernie wants to embrace the notion of sustainability, I strongly agree with that, which has nothing to do with political terms like climate crisis or climate emergency, which from my perspective are simply consensus by coercion. So I hope that we can get back to real science and sustainability and what our real needs are as we embrace our broader community. Now, having said that, I would like to then jump to this question about the MS Word document. So I understand that we don't have the graphics available, et cetera. I don't recall ever being provided a document from our illustrious, I'm going to be careful what I say, town planner / town manager that included MS Word and the graphics associated with it. So I know that was all available. I still have a keen interest in understanding where it all disappeared to and what our town is doing with the police to investigate and prosecute.
Okay, so we have some of that coming up in a limited way, but I think what I'd like to do from a committee charter point of view, we're agreeing for maximum public participation. Jeff's point, and I would second it, is to make that not just be Norwich residents, to make that be a regional participation. And I guess I would turn it around to the subcommittees and say that the full planning commission is asking the subcommittees to very specifically and pointedly come up with the plans for maximizing public participation. That's one of the top things that the subcommittee should do, is say, it's a land use, that's our topic, it's solar siting, that's our topic, and here's how we're going to get the public involved, get the region involved, get the, that, and that's one of the charters that this commission is asking of our subcommittees at the top of their lists. Chris?
I forgot his name, Stanza. Well, anyway, we had a member of the public at our meeting. And I thought he made a really good point and was reiterating what you had said, Jan, is don't create a bigger problem. Try and find what problem are you trying to solve? And because it seems that it's so easy, just not only as a planning commission member, but at the water cooler, at the coffee shops, and everywhere, everybody is talking about, is it a climate crisis? Is this, is it, the philosophical differences. But what I was thinking about, and you guys will see it eventually, I'm very concerned that we're going to get so weighted down by some sort of philosophical differences that we're not going to be paying attention to actual regulatory changes that are in our purview, we're only going to recommend them. So here's an example. The PUC is coming up with some proposed rule changes. And what they do is they come up with their proposal, and then the public is invited to discuss it, as opposed to just, the PUC opening up to just some huge generic, is there a climate crisis or not? So they present the regulation changes or amendments and then say, okay, let's work with this, because I'm so afraid that we're going to get so bogged down going in so many different directions that we are losing sight of what we have to do. It's not just our town plan. Our zoning regs have got so many mistakes. The DRB has been asking us to fix them. And so I appreciated him saying that. Only try and solve a problem right now, or we're going to get, I just find we just could get into so bogged down in this kind of stuff. So again, the PUC is starting to address the proposed changes, and they redlined what their changes are, and it was very clear. Send it out to the public and let the public respond, and then go from there. But I'm just really concerned that we're gonna and it's exactly what you said, Jan, is that we're gonna get so bogged down. And again, nobody's denying that climate crisis isn't or climate emergency or whatever, however you want to say that. But I would, at least from the Solar Study Committee, sticking to regulatory issues right now seems to be.
So let me turn it around and make a charter, make a request, proposed request back to the subcommittees. And that would be that we are asking the subcommittees to do two things as in this early phase: propose plan and methods for maximizing public participation, and to define and put bounds around the work that's going to be done in that, at least the first stage of the work that's going to be done in that committee. So that we are asking those committees to come back and say, okay, we're the land use committee, we are going to work on these sections of the town plan edits for and get that focus as part of the next few meetings of these committees. Jeff?
Yeah, so for land use, Jan, if we want to get focused, let's kind of cut the crap. It's really about, if we said to Norwich right now, no municipal utilities, maximize your development. That's what we have right now. So the question is, what does the land support with respect to water and wastewater? And there might be a handful of lots in the community that would allow multifamily, so I would say if you've got a parcel that allows, 6 units in a building, great. All 3 of you, great. It's almost nothing in the town of Norwich that's going to be supported by on-site water and wastewater. The only other issue for the land use committee to think about is what's the regional need and how municipal utilities might be engaged. Let's keep it really simple.
All right, so I think I'd like to put that on the agendas for the subcommittees, those 2 topics, how to encourage participation and how to bound your task in the coming couple of months, say. And then let's pause that for the subcommittees and we'll wrap back around. And it'll take us a couple iterations to get our sea legs on this one. All right.
Oh, Jan, can I be recognized?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up, Stuart.
So I wanted to respond to what Ernie said. You may have misunderstood or misinterpreted what I said. What was suggested by a member of the public was that every single thing in the town plan was governed by and ruled by the climate emergency. And what I think is that, yes, absolutely, climate does have an impact on many of the land use things that we're going to talk about, but not every single thing in the town plan is governed by or related to a climate emergency. So just a clarification.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. And keep doing the work. And I expect the committees to set up meetings as often as they need and invite people that they think make sense and do the work.
One more thing, Jan, sorry.
Yeah.
Can Bob circulate without violating anything, in your opinion? Can he circulate the Word document to the committee members so that we can have a look at it and start working with it?
I don't know, and I guess that would be a specific open meeting law question. Clearly, I think individual work, whatever document you're working on, I think would be acceptable. It's when you start trading the document with edits in it or putting it on a shared site.
No, I wasn't suggesting
That's when you're in
that
trouble. If it's
I wasn't
simply
suggesting that we edit it. I was just suggesting that it be circulated so that we
Yes.
can start to work on it.
So I think that's, and anybody else can chime in, but I believe that that's acceptable as a Word document sent out to have people have on their computers. The fact that all our packets go out as PDFs, makes that need to be a separate thing sent out. But I don't have any trouble with the Word doc being in everybody's hands.
It's a public document, so it should, if the member of the public wants it.
Well, and if a member of the public wants to take the PDF that's on the website and convert it the way Bob just did, they can. So
Yeah.
There's nothing special about that. It's decision-making policy discussion that's to be avoided. So I have no trouble with that.
Great.
Okay. All right, let's move to the next item on the agenda, which is planning and zoning files. And so just a couple things. They're in the agenda and in the packet, and I just wanted to give a little background and then open it up. As you could tell from both the minutes of the last meeting and then an addendum memo that I sent out, I've had several conversations with Brennan, Pam, Kyle, Marcia, and kind of back around again. The proposal that we came up with to try and balance between what would be a very time consuming and not really workable, anybody who wants to can walk in and look over Pam's shoulder or sit down at a computer and wander around the files, which is just not feasible. And something that works so that when we need something, we can find it and we can get access to it. So the packet contains what I worked with Pam on to create, which is a table of contents of what is in the planning folder. The point was, geez, there should be gigabytes worth of information in here. What's going on? And I must take some responsibility myself for not being clear enough or digging hard enough at the initial round to say, okay, yeah, there is a ton of stuff in there. There are gigabytes of information in the planning and zoning files. There's no question about it. Nobody's wiped things clean. So what I was trying to do with that table of contents was to give a visibility into that level of that it's there, and then a starting point if there are specific requests to say, oh yeah, you got edits back, you got Phil Deckert's old folder. It doesn't mean we're all going to go dig in and look at it. So that's where it stands right now. Personally, I am comfortable that we have that the work that's in those files, we have the files. And I would hope that we can come to a workable method to kind of use what we have and move forward. But I put that out to people for discussion. Stuart, do you have your hand up?
No, I put it down.
Oh, all right. Jeff?
Yeah, so give us a copy of the town plan with all the graphics. And then also give us a copy of the zoning updates the planning commission was contemplating when Rod Francis was the town planner.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are anything like that, any specific requests like that are perfectly valid, and I have no, we have a proposal to get them. So and the way we propose it is then I will be the point of contact, so those requests can come into me, and then I will work with Pam and Kyle and any others to dig them up.
Yeah, Jan, I've been asking this for months. It's not been available. I don't care who provides it. So if it's not available, then it's important that we as we as a community take serious action. So I want a copy of the graphics in the town plan and the proposed zoning changes. Months.
Can I just ask a question? Jeff, when you're talking about the graphics, are you talking about the maps where they sort of look really like vague? And you think there's an original or something? Because I'm curious myself.
Yeah, well, Chris, the town plan was an original. Where is the original of the town plan?
Yeah, no, I'm wondering about those maps that just seem like how, like, sort of like the ridgeline protection. Where are the originals?
To be clear, the ridgeline protection and the scenic views, those are in the zoning regs, not the town plan. And those originals are 2008 kind of vintage, 2008, 2009, which is why, so there's a difference between town plan and zoning regs when it comes which maps are in which. And that's one thing I learned is digging into this.
But there were a lot of other maps, I think, Jeff. Are those the maps you're referring to, Jeff?
I'm asking for the maps that were in the town plan, which our town planner, with the majority of our planning commission, refused to share with the planning commission. I want to know where those maps are. So I'd like to have the actual document of our town plan and all of the maps that we can have and share with our regional planning commission.
I agree.
All right. I mean, to your point, Jeff, I take that as a specific request to feed into the proposed method that I agreed to with Marcia and Brennan. I would stress that yes, we have been talking about it and asking for them for quite a while. We have not had a conduit or an official agreed upon method, which is what has taken this long to get, unfortunately, but let's exercise it. Jeff?
Yeah, so I understand the planning commission essentially has a relationship with the select board. I have no idea why the interim town manager is involved in this process. I understand in theory that he works for the select board in some capacity in accordance with the VSAs. I'll let others determine how that is subscribed, if you will. But I have no interest in working with the interim town manager. He has no role in what it is we're doing. So I'd like to basically say, let's engage the select board. That is the entity to which we have some relationship legally to say, cut the crap and give us this stuff.
The short answer that I would say, based on my discussions, is that the staff reports to the town manager. If I start piling on requests to Pam, I will have to talk to Brennan, because she will go to Brennan and she'll say, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to answer this. This is going to take a whole bunch of time. So Brennan is her supervisor and Kyle's. And so it's not that simple. You can't avoid the town manager in this environment. Chris?
So Jeff, this would be a question to you and Ernie. Those maps look relatively official. Do you know if Brandy was part of the consultant who helped put those together? Is her consulting firm, or was there a mapping firm or somebody who was hired outside of Rod who actually has the originals? Are you guys even aware of who actually?
The planning commission was told that Rod did the work. To the extent we asked for RPC involvement, we were denied. So how Rod generated the work, we don't have knowledge, and I would not opine on the topic. So back to what Jan said, if I may, Jan. This goes to the job that we're just going to discuss with respect to the planning, the P&Z administrator. We don't have a role with the town manager. Let's pose the question. Here's what we want. Marcia, where is it?
I will put that specific request into the proposal I agreed to with Marcia, and Brennan was there. So I will put that as the sole point of contact. I will put that in as a request. Vince, I see a hand.
I was just wondering if there's been an update on accessing Rod's emails.
What I understand is it's not something that, whatever access Brennan has, it is not something that somebody's going to tell me, oh, here's his password and here's a computer, go wander around. That's simply not access that's going to be available. Everything that's on there from HR point of view is not something that the chair of the planning commission is going to be able to see. So whether they're available or not, and in what form, it's not something that we're not going to go fishing in them. We should be looking for documents that we need to do our work.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, so I will put that in, those two things that Jeff said, into the hopper that is supposedly how we're going to answer these questions, and then we will follow that up as it goes. Let's roll into the.
I have a question.
Sure, Chris.
I have a question. I'm sorry, but I don't know how to say this. I'm sort of shocked. But so those maps and the graphics that we are talking about as part of an official town plan, which again is really only supposed to be advisory or whatever. So how exactly, if we can't get those official maps and the town, does the town plan actually exist if we don't have these, or does it negate?
No, my
Yeah.
understanding when in these conversations, it came up specifically. The town plan, the official document of the town plan is the PDF. We have a town plan, it's a document, and it's on the website and it's available for all to see. And that is the official document. So it has all the weight of an official document as that PDF.
Okay.
Let me follow up on those specific requests, because I was trying to set up a process. I got one set up. Let's exercise it. All right, let's talk about Planning Commission staff, which is related. Not quite the same, but related. And you saw the memo that I wrote to the select board. This is after a conversation with Marcia and Brennan around the current job descriptions, the work that had been done hiring so far. And then I wanted a specific request into the select board. Marcia said, put it in as a memo to the select board, which I then drafted and put in their packet, which will be on the agenda on the meeting of the 27th. They were going to meet tomorrow. They are not. Their next warned meeting is the 27th. And so to my mind right now, we have an official request in the form of that memo to the select board. And so until they respond to that, we put that out. So I guess I would ask the commission on this topic, when you review the memo I put in, is there anything you want to add or comment on relative to that? And then second, how do we best deal with the meeting on the 27th and participating in that discussion with the board? Jeff?
Yeah, so Jan, I appreciate your interaction with Marcia and this memo and the interim town manager. What we discussed, the Planning Commission, as I recall, was actually proffering or rewriting that position and offering it to the select board. And when the town engages a town manager, perhaps that will have some impetus. So I would like to suggest that on one level, we actually proceed with finalizing what we think the job offering should say. And to that end, I would also say, to the extent we can attend the meetings collectively, the more people, the better on the 27th, as you said. With consensus would be wonderful.
My understanding from, and when I was writing the memo, I had this in my mind. My understanding from the conversation we had in this commission was if we could get a small group, and that was kind of the last thing stated on the memo, if we can get a small group of one or two PC members, maybe with somebody from the DRB, that this employee is DRB, Planning Commission, and Historic Society, and a select board member, town manager, and that would be the group that would finalize job descriptions, review candidates, and all that. That was my understanding of the Planning Commission's desires, and that's why I put it that way in the memo. Jeff?
Yeah, Jan, my question fundamentally is, who in all these participants has any knowledge or experience? From the interim town manager, as far as I know, who has none, to the select board.
I don't know, wait, Jeff, experience with what? Hiring or a zoning administrator or planning and zoning or DRB?
Let me give you an example. I had a dialogue, a town manager in Hartford in 2019 said, I'd like you to talk to my staff about their hiring practices. So I said to someone in the Public Works Department, how many consultants have you engaged? Oh, I don't know, 1,000. Have you ever done any of the work that you've asked them to do? Well, what does that have to do with why I would hire them or engage them? So the town manager said, thank you for revealing to my staff that they have no knowledge about what they're doing in terms of hiring, interviews, and so forth. So this town, from my perspective, we've had town managers creating these ridiculous subcommittees to talk about hiring with people that have absolutely no knowledge about what they're doing. So sitting here, there's nobody on the historic, with all due respect, committee that has any knowledge about this person's role. If there's a person on the DRB right now that has that knowledge, I'd like to know who that is. There's no one on the select board that has any knowledge in this realm, nor does our interim town manager have any knowledge in this realm. So why don't we actually create a committee that knows something about this position, what this particular role is? I can't conceive of the dysfunction that we're continuing to perpetuate in this town.
Other people's comments. I mean, I think, to my mind, we have to engage with the people that are going to be the working with this person. That's part of the reason. And experience versus, experience in hiring people is different than experience in rewriting a town plan or a DRB permitting application. But I don't think it's feasible for us as the planning commission to be saying, okay, we're going to write this and we're going to put it out and we're going to hire the candidate. That's just not going to, it's not going to work in the environment we're in. Ernie.
First of all, I have two questions. One would be to Jeff, actually, about what kind of people, where would we find people, and what experience would they have that would be appropriate? I mean, would it be people who've been on commissions in this town for a while, working with this kind of people? I mean, certainly he'd qualify. I think I might qualify under that. Or is it somebody who's out in the planning world, which probably there isn't anybody in the town who can do that. We'd end up with having to hire somebody, which I think would be a bad idea. The other part of this is that I've kind of lost my train of thought after that. Like I said, there was two pieces. I'll have to remember what I was going to say.
But just as an example, I believe Jack Candon is now on the DRB, whether he's an alternate or a regular member. But so I just throw that out, and not that he can get Jack to jump on for sure, but that would be an example in my mind of someone with experience. Let me go to Stuart next, Jeff.
So the issue of recruiting, hiring, the two parts that you're talking about, somebody, you got to know what the position is, but then you have to know something about recruiting. So, this town, and this is a little bit off topic, but I just feel like it is part of what we need to be mindful of. We seem to be willing to spend a lot of money on forming different types of or hiring different types of organizations to do whatever it is that we want to do. So we had a density study going for a while, and maybe it's finished, maybe it isn't, 35 grand. We had a sewer study going for 50 grand. We had another study going that is, so anyway, what I'm saying is all of these studies, which are quite costly, yes, we do need people who know something about what is supposed to happen. And, you know, having worked for a couple small companies like General Electric and Citibank in recruiting, I do know something about that. And I just think that the approach that the town is taking is not a really viable or a helpful approach when it comes to hiring. We have some people in town, fortunately, who have offered their help. Mary Gorman, for instance, is in recruiting, and she has been helpful, I think, in trying to work things out. But the point that has been made is a good point, is if you're trying to get something done, it's helpful to hire people or to use people who have some expertise in the field. So I just would emphasize that point and, you know, try and work in that mode so that the people that we're working with have some expertise. So thanks.
I just want to point out from what I read of the draft minutes of the last select board meeting, they changed the interim town manager's job description or functions, I believe, relating to hiring, so that he is more like an official town manager than an interim town. They had held to the select board the authority to approve or do all hires, and they gave at least some of that back to the interim town manager in the last meeting. I think we can confirm that, but anyway, that's part of the puzzle. Is the town manager leads the staff, and the select board is the one that votes on the budget for anybody that's working for the town. And those are the facts on the ground. Ernie?
I just remembered what the other part was that I was going to talk about, which now speaks exactly what you were just talking about. The statutes authorizing planning commission specifically say that when it comes to hiring the ZA, the planning commission is the ones who nominate, in other words, choose the person to be the ZA. They do have to, it's this matrix management kind of thing, that's maybe an old-fashioned term, that the ZA is administered by the town manager, but he answers to the planning commission. We make the policies that he has to follow. The town manager might make some policies that have to do with how an employee should behave in the town in order, if he wants to stay employed, how he gets his paychecks and yada, yada, yada. But the substantive work that they do, he answers to us and not to the town manager at all. The town manager this is an unusual part of the law, because the town manager does sort of step in and basically execute what the select board wants, I should say, and proposes all the policies. But when it comes to the planning commission and the ZA, that relationship, it's kind of like the town manager to the select board, the ZA is to the planning commission. And it's just that, you know, the planning commission is not, unlike the select board, authorized to deal with money and so on and so forth. So that's why the select board has to deal with it, and with the town manager, who is, I think the select board actually is the ones who actually will hire the ZA too, not the town manager. The town manager then takes over from the select board, just like they take over other activities that the select board authorizes and would have in the past done itself before there was a town manager.
Mhm.
I think that's the way we have, and that's consistent with your strong, with the strong planning commission concept that we've been talking about. I don't
Yeah,
think,
the one to emphasize something that was in one of my memos that was a very useful piece of information. Marcia went to council and asked the question of the two models of strong planning
Yeah.
commission and so on.
and
And
then,
his specific statement was, because the town has not taken affirmative action to act like an urban municipality, we are considered as under 4325 instead of the other one. We are lean towards and can be assumed to act more like a rural town than an urban municipality. So I thought that was a useful little legal opinion that Marcia got.
I'm glad you got that out of her too.
Jeff?
That's perfect
Yeah,
for us.
so I appreciate Ernie reiterating the law. It saves me from rambling. But I think if you look at the advertisements from Herb to Rod, and I'm going to say before Herb, I don't know how to say this politely, but they're gibberish. So if you look at the version that I wrote, that I consorted with Ernie about, it is heavily weighted toward the DRB and that person's role with respect to the DRB and the Planning Commission. Not doing 911, changing the toilet paper, none of the other town manager stuff. And I'm being a little bit flippant when I say that. Having said that, I would say, to the extent Jack Kanan could be involved, that would be wonderful, because he is indeed a person with experience that I would say supersedes, like mine, anything the select board or the interim town manager may embrace in that paradigm. And I got to run 2 hours.
Yeah. Can I just, for a minute here, the point is, how do we deal with the 27th? I think that if we can say we would like to have as many members as possible there, we have the consensus, we have discussed this enough, so I think we have a consensus of strong commission model and so forth. But I guess I would ask people, if possible, to attend the meeting on the 27th. All right, thank you, Jeff.
But the first half hour to get on the 248 review? I'm not sure, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about now the select board meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Select board meeting on the 27th of September should have a warned agenda item to address that memo that I sent them at Marcia's request. And so they're going to talk about it. We can go, obviously, as members of the public, and I think it would be good to be able to have, rather than just say, oh, we empower the chair to attend and restate his memo, I think it would be better to have more members of the commission there to talk about and answer the things as they come up from the select board. So
Okay.
that's the 27th. We'll look at the agenda. That my assumption was that it wasn't going to be tomorrow. It was going to be, and they canceled that. So it will be the 27th, but we'll look at the agendas as they come up. Okay. And if people can just, if we can stick it out for another 10 minutes here, we can get through the minutes and a couple other things, but I can report again on the, as Ernie said, yes, Ernie?
I just wanted to make 100% sure I understand. There is no meeting tomorrow, no select board meeting to be going to or anything like that.
Correct. That's,
Okay.
they did not warn a meeting for the 13th, and they said specifically that people had conflicts and the next.
Okay, so the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Just making sure. I'm
Yep.
just real bad with dates lately, so just.
No, that is my understanding. And I did want to, sorry to stay on this topic for a minute, because that point that it says under item number 7, meeting logistics, and this is as much for Vince as anyone else, but also subcommittee minute takers. When you have meetings on Tuesday, you cannot make it to Monday on the 5-day clock ticking for minutes. So, and Pam doesn't work on Fridays. And so and the main point that in talking this through with Pam, we need staff to be the ones to officially post minutes and agendas. And what I mean when I say that, when I did a Sunday listserv posting of minutes, that was insufficient a posting for open meeting law. That didn't include physically posting in a bulletin board. And so I had her do that Monday, but technically that was a violation. And so it means that Tuesday is kind of a tricky day. It basically means, you know, you can get it to Pam on Thursday. If it is a very straightforward set of minutes that just need posting, Miranda will do it. Miranda or Debbie can do it on Friday. But you got to do Friday. You can't carry to Monday. And so that's just something to keep in mind when we do Tuesday meetings. And our subcommittees are also doing some Tuesdays. Thursdays, you can make it to the following Monday and so on. But the assumption is staff, which is either Miranda or Pam, need to be the ones that post, because they're official places they do that, and we're not going to do that as general members of the public. So just we'll keep that in mind. And the only other specific is that Pam is out this coming Monday, so Friday and Monday she'll be out in just personal time. But I think we've been doing fine with that, and I'm the only one that really broke it because I had to rush it out on Sunday and didn't get it done by Friday. So that's what I meant by meeting logistics on that agenda item.
Hey,
Yes.
John, if you had, because we know the meeting, we know the bulletin out front isn't locked to my knowledge. You just pin it up. You can just open the window and pin it up. So had you gone ahead and posted the draft minutes and then posted, I don't think the library's open on Sunday, but I guess or let's just say Saturday.
They
If you put it
do
on
the
Saturday-
post office. They do
Post
post
office.
office and inside and outside of Tracy, the website and the listserv.
So
That's-
you have to have 3 or all 5 is my question.
I think the way she described it, they did a slightly more limited version for the I won't be right, but either there's agendas and packets, and then their minutes, and those they both need a physical posting and at least listserv. And the only one that is a burden or a significant amount of work would be if the packet was complicated, right? A simple agenda Miranda can do, so that means you can make Fridays. A set of minutes that just need to get turned into PDFs, and that can be done on a Friday. Miranda will not be able to take a multiple document, concatenate into a packet thing and do it on a Friday. So that if we can just get some of these ground rules, especially as we get more work coming out of subcommittees. So Chris, for our packet for a solar subcommittee meeting for Tuesday, we need to get that so Pam can do it on Thursday and get the packet out so that we're not asking Miranda to do a bunch of work on a Friday. Okay. And we'll work this out as we go. But if we ended up with 4 or 5 subcommittees and we start piling it on, we have to get some ground rules.
Okay.
Okay. And then just to update on the reaching out, as Ernie said, I'm continuing to do that, and I've gotten universally positive response. I have talked to Patrick Bradley of the DRB. I've talked to Craig Lane, Conservation, actually tomorrow morning, first thing, I'm talking with Eric Wrench, who is the new chair of the Energy Committee. And so I'm just going to continue to do that. I would ask if somebody is willing to, that Historic Committee has a meeting on the 28th of September. It would be great if, and I know they're going to talk planning and zoning specifics there. Is there anybody who's willing to sit in on that, or contact Nancy Osgood and see what the agenda looks like and offer to participate? Ernie?
Well, I would be willing to do it, partly just because I like seeing new stuff. That'd be something new for me, but I have to look at my calendar and see what the courts have in store for me in the coming weeks too, so.
Yeah. Okay. So just, I know it's the 28th. I'm not sure what the time is, but if you can check into that, and Vince, if you can just make a note of that, that'll help. Then Nancy will see that and it'll remind Ernie at the same time. Okay, so I will continue to do that. And then this is an initial feeler, an initial, yes, we want to talk. So as we turn the corner on some specific subcommittee work, and we just talked about subcommittees need to maximize public participation, then we'll need to turn an initial sort of welcoming message from me into some concrete, hey, Energy Committee, we're going to be talking about solar siting, on these dates. And, so we'll need to make it more concrete. But right now it's been a very well received, just olive branch and introduction. Okay. Can we look at the minutes quickly? And if somebody wants to move one or both of those, that'll get us going.
Oh, shoot.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I
Okay,
second.
that'll be of the 8th and the 22nd. If we look
We
at
do both.
dates.
For both August 8th and 22nd.
Okay. Any comments, edits, specific concerns on the minutes? Let's start with the 8th. Anything on the 8th? Okay. Anything on the 22nd? And I'm fine, Vince, we can, and anybody doing subcommittee minutes, I'm perfectly fine with Stuart's proposal that we put a note that says, minutes submitted by note taker so-and-so and next meeting date. That's a perfectly good convention to have for our minutes.
Yeah, sounds good.
Any comments on the 22nd? All right, call the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes as moved?
Aye.
All right.
Am I?
And then the next regular meeting, as I said, is October 10th. There'll be a solar subcommittee on the 19th. And if anybody wants to, if we have any other known next meetings of subcommittees, then let Vince know before he gets draft minutes out and he can list those on the bottom.
Yeah, the next Thursday is the proposed meeting for the land use.
Yeah.
Thursday at 6:30. I think Historic
The
Society.
14th, right?
Sounds right.
It's at the Historic Society.
You moved it from the 14th to the 21st.
21st.
The 21st, and it's actually at the Historic Society.
Haven't confirmed yet,
Okay.
but
I guess it's not up to me to,
likely.
I guess I don't need
Yeah.
to.
There's a DRB meeting that same night, but so they're gonna have probably the room you're sitting in.
Yeah, and you don't forget, we were calling a special
And then
meeting.
we will have, yeah, that's right, Vince, if you can put that in too. We
That was-
will have, and we'll need to warn it separately with an agenda, but put it at the bottom of these minutes. We will have 6 o'clock on the 19th. We will have a special meeting to discuss the Hennessy Solar net metering application.
Okay. Motion
All
to
right.
adjourn.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you all. Let's keep going. I think the subcommittees need to really get in gear and do the work, and then we'll get in a stride. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Night.
Good night.